So there's an interesting story that back when Kamala Harris was running to be reelected as California's Attorney General in 2014, she received thousands of dollars of donations from Donald Trump and Ivanka Trump between 2011 and 2014 in 3 separate donations. These are, at the very least, 3 donations from Trump family individuals directly to Kamala Harris's Attorney General campaign. This is a pretty bad look pretty much for everybody, but I say especially Kamala Harris on the day that she became Joe Biden's vice presidential running mate. It makes Trump look bad, don't get me wrong, because of course, you know, he and Mike Pence and the Republican Party are going to criticize Kamala Harris and say that she's all this and all that awful, that she's going to be a terrible vice president, and that sleepy Joe Biden might have to leave the presidency, so this terrible woman is going to become president, and we have to stop her, and we have to stop Joe Biden. Meanwhile, within 6-7 years ago, Trump was giving this woman, and Trump's daughter, who plays a role in his administration, was giving this woman thousands of dollars in her re-election effort to one of the top offices in one of the biggest states. Trump's going to face questions. Why did you like her back then? Why don't you like her now? And from my perspective, I haven't seen a whole lot of change from Kamala Harris, so Trump might look like quite the hypocrite. But I think this is worse for Harris and Biden because there's already the perception that they are right-wing Democrats. Fair or not, I think it's actually pretty fair. But that's the perception. And the perception is that Kamala Harris is really Copmala Harris. That she's a cop, that she actually doesn't really care all that much about racial equality and racial justice, that when she was an attorney general, when she had the power to institute justice in the state of California, again, one of the biggest and most influential states, she failed to do so. And that caused harm to Black Americans and poor Americans and Hispanic Americans and other marginalized people. And so when the chips were down, she didn't do enough. And of course, Joe Biden wrote the 94 crime bill. And so you have Donald Trump back in 2013, 2014. Of course, he's not yet the Republican nominee. He's not yet running for president. But this, by that point, was already the man who had become increasingly famous off attacking Barack Obama profusely on social media and basically implying that Barack Obama was not a real American and was basically a fake Kenyan who had sort of usurped the presidency unconstitutionally because he wasn't a real American. And he was donating big money, relatively, again, you can only donate so much as an individual, to Kamala Harris's re-election campaign. So what did Donald Trump see in Kamala Harris that he liked? And that's a real tough question that Biden and Harris are going to have to answer. Because again, it's not so much about them losing votes to Trump over this. It's about people saying, I don't want to vote for somebody that perpetuates systems of injustice, even if they're better than the other guy. Or I'll vote for them, but I won't donate. I won't volunteer. I won't phone bank. I'm not going to do that for somebody that doesn't respect my rights. And then those people might be told by a Kamala Harris volunteer, they'll say, hey, you know, Kamala has realized that she hasn't always been perfect, but she's committed to greater racial and economic equality in this country. And then those people can now say, at least potentially, but then why did Donald Trump, who by that point was already an out and out awful person? This is not Donald Trump from 30 years ago when he was still awful, but, you know, he often claimed to be pro Medicare for all and things like that. He had a more checkered past. We knew what Donald Trump was 6-7 years ago. We knew that. Why did he donate to her? And I think there's a couple reasons why. One, she is soft on corporate crime. She was, at least when she was in California. I know Biden said she took on the big banks, but when the chips were down, she never used her power to fundamentally go after white collar, people that broke the law. She never did that. Not nearly enough. She never took the fundamental steps to say, not anymore. And the biggest state in the country, one of the most prosperous states in the country, we are going to finally bring justice to white collar criminals. She did not do that. But she was very, very tough on blue-collar crime, on regular people who did things wrong, who found themselves on the wrong side of the law, who did nothing wrong, with regard to a lot of things, but by the book, it was technically not legal. So, Kamala Harris hesitated not one bit at throwing the book at them. And so if you're Donald Trump, and we know what Donald Trump is, and we know what Ivanka Trump is, you love someone that's tough on poor people and racialized people when they find themselves on the wrong side of the law, but you love people that are easy on you when you're a rich person, or a white rich person especially, on the wrong side of the law. Donald Trump's been on the wrong side of the law a lot of the time. So have people in his family. Friendly attorney generals, maybe like Kamala Harris back in California in 2014, were just the people he wanted in office just in case he had a case in California he needed to deal with. Because, of course, Trump is a national businessman, dealings all over the world, wasn't just operating in New York. He had business interests in California. Maybe he wanted a friendly voice like Kamala Harris, who would treat poor, racialized people harshly and let the rest of the criminals, kind of get away with things. That's my instinct about why he donated to her. Why else would Donald Trump donate to Kamala Harris in 2014? Because he knew that one day she would run for president and then she wouldn't succeed and she would be vice president, and he thought she was a weak candidate. So this was like 7-degree chess to line up somebody to be his eventual opponent. No, the Occam's razor explanation is that she would do things that Donald Trump agreed with. And that's something that's really going to gnaw away at her effort and Biden's effort to convince progressives, to convince people in Black Lives Matter that they've actually learned something about how they've caused harm to millions of Americans, especially poor and racialized Americans, while they've let people like Trump get away with so much worse. This is not a good start to that effort.